आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
And time now for the nation's sharpest opinion. And Donald Trump has said that what he wants to carry out is regime change in Iran, which means he's making it absolutely clear he's not after any nuclear weapons, he's not after anything else. He wants to carry out regime change. And the reasoning for regime change is very clear: Iranian oil. Trump wants Iranian oil, and he's not going to stop at the bombing of Fordo and the 2 other sites. He wants to remove Khamenei and wants to put in a puppet. So what he said is that it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be regime change? Now imagine, impose that logic on America. If any other country says, Trump can't make America great again, so let's carry out regime change. It's the position which America comes from which is extremely concerning. America comes from a position where it says, we decide who runs which country in the world and for how long. And if they run according to American interests, which means if they give every ounce of minerals and oil and profit and trade to America, then we will let so-and-so run the country. And if they say no, then remember what we did in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, I said that earlier, and now I have been proven correct, that the Americans carried out a regime change operation and put in the so-called Professor Dr. Muhammad Yunus, who's nothing but a puppet, and they put him as an acting president because they wanted to carry out regime change, because Sheikh Hasina was not letting them access St. Martin Island and turn a part of Bangladeshi soil into an American military base. Now, this is a dangerous point of view. And even if you come from the view that Iran cannot be justified, please remember, in Iraq, it was a WMD hoax. Iran, it is the nuclear hoax. Please remember that the American National Intelligence head Tulsi Gabbard has said that there is no nuclear bomb that is being built by Iran. But Trump says, no, there is a nuclear bomb. But in its annual threat assessment report on March 18th, the American government said, we continue to assess Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and that Khamenei has not authorized or reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2023. Now, the bottom line is, what does this mean? This essentially means that all of this talk about Iran building a nuclear bomb is complete fiction. If it is fiction, then what does America want? America wants to basically control a new government. Khamenei is not going to submit himself to the Americans, so the Americans want to put in someone else, maybe someone like the puppet, ex-so-called Crown Prince of Iran, Raza Pahlavi, who lives between Texas and New York. He's lived in America for 45 years. He has nothing to do with the Iranian people, but now he's saying that I have a direct message for Ali Khamenei, step down, and if you do, then you'll receive a fair trial. I'd like to ask, who is the so-called Crown Prince speaking on behalf of? He's not speaking on behalf of the Iranian people. He's speaking on behalf of the Americans and offering himself as some kind of an interim leader to make it easier for the Americans to rule Iran by proxy. And how bad is that? America wants to rule other countries by proxy, but I'd like to warn Trump, he's going to mess it up. I'd like to remind Trump about the botched-up operation in Afghanistan, where the US fought for 2 decades and lost and had to run away. And Taliban has full control today of Kabul within 40 days of the American withdrawal from the Bagram Air Base. See, Trump is a problematic character. He's going to create problems in the world. The Americans should remember there's nothing called a quick war. They should remember the blunder in Iran, where NATO went into Libya in 2011 to, quote-unquote, protect the civilians during the Arab Spring. The intention was to kill Muammar Gaddafi, which they did, but they also destroyed Libya. No stability, no economy, and no safety. And that's what they have done. Remember what they did in Vietnam? They botched up. Iraq, they botched up. Afghanistan, they messed up. Libya, they destroyed. Bangladesh, they are destroying. And now the Americans want to get into Iran. Sometimes I believe that the Americans have some suicidal instinct as a country. And that's what they are doing. In fact, what the Americans need to understand is that the Ayatollahs are the byproduct of US meddling. Anyone who understands history will remember that it is the CIA and the British intelligence-led coup of 1953 that led to the ouster of the Shah of Iran. Imagine this, 1953, ladies and gentlemen. And 72 years later, this country has not learnt a lesson. It's a mess. America is a mess. $38 trillion of debt. They want to carry out regime change in Iran. My prediction tonight, and read my lips, this is going to be a long war if America takes it to the next level. If they want regime change, they'll have to get their boots on the ground. If they get boots on the ground, there will be insurgency. If there's insurgency, American soldiers will also die. And if American soldiers die, Trump will lose his job. Someone should tell the Americans as straight as I have said it tonight. Mr. Donald Trump, if you're listening to this tonight, if you get any deeper into this, you will not last your term. Let's debate.
The gloves are finally off. And so is the pretense.
Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Just days ago, Donald Trump had threatened killing Khamenei. Now he is no longer refraining from using words regime change, officially calling in classic Trump fashion to make Iran great again through a regime change. Israel is extremely happy with the United States entering into the war.
History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you.
Iran is on a war path to internationalize the conflict with a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz.
Madam President, history will not forget these tragic days. Timing, nature, and the scale of Iran's proportionate response will be decided by its armed forces.
The foreign minister of Iran also landed in Russia, meeting President Vladimir Putin.
The door for diplomacy should be always keep open, but this is not the case right now. My country has been under attack, under aggression, and we have to respond based on our legitimate right of self-defense. And we will do that as long as needed and necessary.
President Putin has promised the Iranian foreign minister for all possible support, saying that the US aggression had no grounds. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians are also taking note, marking a significant cross-section between two of the biggest ongoing conflicts of the world.
Режиму, який так багато допоміг Путіну. Зараз в українському небі чергові хвилі шахедів. Ми всі прекрасно пам'ятаємо, звідки у Росії така зброя.
Russia isn't alone. The Chinese too are piling on to the United States for its intervention.
袭击伊朗核设施，严重违反联合国宪章宗旨和原则，加剧中东紧张局势。安理会对此不能无所作为。
United States allies are afraid of this boiling into a full-scale war.
The US action was directed at specific sites central to Iran's nuclear program. We don't want escalation and a full-scale war. We continue to call for dialogue and for diplomacy.
However, the Israelis are committed on their actions, further attacking 6 airports across Iran while shooting down multiple ballistic missiles from Iran.
Make no mistake, the cost of inaction would have been catastrophic. A nuclear Iran would have been a death sentence just as much for you as it would have been for us.
The IAEA sits helplessly as Israel and United States strike Iran's nuclear sites with impunity. Iran is now directly issuing threats to Trump, calling him a gambler.
Gambler Trump, you can start this war, but we will be the ones who end it.
Reports also suggest that Iran has now significantly escalated the situation by targeting a United States military base. The only question remains: what is Trump's real motivation for pushing the world on the brink of a possible world war? Is it just about the nuclear weapons, or a regime change operations is at play?
With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days.
Understand what the regime change is all about and why Trump is keen on it. I have with me Einar Tangen from China, from Beijing, and Tatiana Kokoreva from Moscow. And we have Dr. Reza Khanzadeh, who is a senior foreign policy advisor to the US-Iran Chamber of Commerce from Washington. Daniel Pipes is founder and president emeritus of the Middle East Forum. He's joining us tonight, along with Adam Bilos, who is CEO of the Israel Innovation Fund from Tel Aviv. Pastor Mark Burns is a Trump supporter, is an American evangelical minister, and is joining us tonight. And Khosrow Isfahani, my first guest, is a senior research analyst at NUFDI from Washington. Mr. Isfahani, what does Trump mean when he says that if Ayatollah Khamenei cannot make Iran great again, there should be regime change? He's openly talking about regime change. What is his plan there?
So let's start with pointing out that you're misquoting the President of the United States. He doesn't say that he wants regime change in Iran, but he's pointing out what he has said on the record since he came to power and returned to office as the president, that the Islamic Republic cannot have a weapon of mass destruction. And despite your misleading introduction to this item, the Islamic Republic has pursued weapons of mass destruction through its history. It has increased nuclear enrichment over the past couple of months. At some point, the enrichment reached 90%. You don't need that for civilian use. That's only for military capabilities. And they are already, again, despite the strikes, threatening that 1, they are going to make the bomb, 2, they are going to block the Strait of Hormuz. Are these any behavior that instills trust in this regime? Of course not. What President Trump has consistently said is that if the Islamic Republic refuses to give up its terror export, its pursuit of weapons of mass destruction, it will face repercussions. That's what the US president has consistently and constantly said. Let's be clear about these things first.
Okay, thank you. Now, just before I go to our next speaker, I'd like to just respond to some points you made in critique of what I said. You see, Trump said, and I'm not misquoting anyone, I'm not misquoting the President of the United States. He said it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be regime change? Now, there are several ingredients that a country can decide when it says it wants to make a country great. Somebody may say, we want to increase agricultural production. Somebody may want to say, we want to increase the manufacturing base. Somebody may say, we want to make nuclear weapons. I have said it repeatedly, Mr. Isfahani, that I have felt that the American pursuit has been the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. But this changes things. By America's own admission, you have destroyed. The B-2 strikes have destroyed. No, Adam, let me complete. By America's own admission, you've destroyed the nuclear bases. But now you're shifting the goalpost to one of regime change. So I'm correct to ask, what is the end game for America? Is it the nuclear weapons or is it removing Khamenei?
The Islamic Republic is claiming that the nuclear facilities, the nuclear material is intact and in a safe place. It is threatening the world that it's going to use the material for building weapons. These are messages coming from the top of the Islamic Republic, including Ali Shamkhani. They are not backing down. They haven't given up. They still have the nuclear material. Repeating.
Okay. So Khosrow, I don't want to debate only with you. I want to get the others in. Otherwise, it becomes too one-sided, and I'm unfair on the others. So can I just get in Daniel Pipes into this, please? Mr. Pipes, may I get your take on this? I just want clarity on what, in your view, the end game from President Trump is going to be. What is the end game?
I believe that the President of the United States attacked the 3 nuclear sites not to change the regime, but to impair and to stop the building of nuclear weapons by the Islamic Republic. Now, at the same time, it is not inconceivable that the attacks by Israel and the United States, particularly the attacks today by Israel on prison and other domestic institutions, will lead to regime change. But that's not something either Israel nor the United States are going to be engaged in. In other words, unlike Iraq and Afghanistan 20 years ago, there will be no American troops in Iran. There will be just attacks from the air. We hope that the attacks that were done a couple of days ago will be the end of it. Let's hope that's the case, that the Iranian government will agree to end the enrichment, and that's that. If the Iranian government does not, there might be further war. But in any case, you can be sure, absolutely sure, that the American public does not want to have another Afghanistan or Iraq. Nobody's interested in the oil in Iran. Nobody's interested in having American troops in Iran. The idea is we stop the Iranian nuclear buildup. And should that lead to a change of regime? Great. Okay. But it's not something we will do. That's something the Iranian people will be doing. Big difference from 20 years ago.
Yeah, big difference from 20 years ago. I agree with you. That would have been my assessment too, till Trump spoke about regime change. And I believe that regime change cannot happen without boots on the ground unless there is a massive local insurrection against Khamenei. Tatiana wants to respond. Tatiana, how do you view this talk suddenly of regime change?
Good evening, Arnab. I am just astonished at the 2 previous speakers. That is very American. That is ultimately American to think that you can come up to somebody, punch them in the face, and then expect for them to apologize to you and say, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I understand, I can relate to one of the speakers who is, I believe, from Israel, who is laughing at what I'm saying right now. Look, let's not go into the whole Israel-Iran conflict for now, if we can. Let's stay on the developments of this weekend. If you remember, Arnab, I told you on Friday.
You want to talk about, you want to back, okay.
Sorry?
No, I just don't understand how you could say that you want to talk about hitting somebody in public and then not acknowledging it or apologizing, but you don't want to talk about the conflict that's going on right now or the region.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
That's not what I said. I said that you cannot
supers, Moscow and Tel Aviv.
Hit someone and then expect for that person that you hit to actually apologize to you. That is very, very American. That is incredibly American, in fact.
I don't think anybody's looking for an apology. I just think they want the stability of the free world and a stable Middle East, and a Middle East where women like yourself aren't forced to cover their.
You know that very well. You know very well that stability is never achieved through violence, especially through violence of the scale that we've seen.
I think that's rather rich, considering that the Islamic Republic is the world's largest sponsor of terror and sponsored the October 7th massacre on many Israelis, where we saw some of the worst crimes against humanity of the last century. So I just think that's rather rich and kind of obtuse to the point. I'm not really sure what you're aiming to accomplish, but I don't think that you would like to live under the Iranian regime currently in existence.
Adam, let's let Tatiana finish, and I'll come back to you on that. Yeah.
Adam, I am terribly sorry if you affiliate me with I don't know who you affiliate me with. I'm not trying to achieve anything. I am in Moscow. I have spent a lot of time in Israel, and I have very dear friends there, and I love the country very, very much. The point that I am making, and I'm going to continue to make it, if I may, is that, and that is very important to understand, even as a person who's lived in the Middle East for quite some time, I don't see how you would expect for the US, not you, I'm not touching the Israeli-Iranian conflict. That is quite a different story. I don't understand how the US, and Donald Trump in particular, expect to bomb 3 nuclear sites and then to expect Iran to not respond to this and appear extremely weak and incapable on the international scale, which the leadership will not allow it. I can bet you for it. They will respond. And you know that they will respond. However, you might not like the fact that they will respond.
How is Tatiana with the Iranian foreign minister in Moscow? I don't know if he met Mr. Sergei Lavrov, or he is having.
Yes, they were all in the meeting. Mr. Lavrov was in the meeting with Mr. Putin. Look, Arnab, that was a cordial meeting. They've both, the foreign minister has thanked Vladimir Putin for his position. He has claimed that Moscow is on the right side of history and international law. However, and we've heard it
of that meeting?
Yeah. Sorry?
No. I was Those are the visuals of that meeting. I'm just talking over the visuals of the meeting, where Putin sits with Lavrov and meets the Iranian foreign minister. And Tatiana, what happened in that process is that when on Sunday morning the bombing happened, and I want to bring in Pastor Mark Burns and Einar Tangen as well. See, things have moved so quickly, Pastor Mark Burns and Einar Tangen, that till Sunday there was this attitude. And I said, listen, let's not celebrate this because I don't think this is the end of it. And when the Iranian foreign minister flew and landed in Moscow and met Putin and met Lavrov, and there was a cautious, but I'm sure, Einar, you saw it, a fairly straight statement from Beijing as well, things began to look different. Iran suddenly did not look as isolated. And one got a feeling that, this is going to become multilateral. So, Einar, I want your reading of the situation. And suddenly after that, America softened on the regime change position. I don't know if you saw this, Einar. A statement came in from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt now, which says, let's open up diplomacy. Yesterday, late last night, Trump said, let's have regime change. Today, they say, let's have diplomacy. China makes a statement. Moscow makes a statement. Where is this headed? Einar first, and then Pastor Mark Burns. Einar.
Well, let me just say this. The very fact that Iranians and Russians meeting is no shock to us.
He asked me a question.
Sorry between you. Pastor, can I let Einar come in on that, and I'll come back to you straight after that. I wanted Einar to go first, and then I'll come to you.
Thank you,
for response. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I thought you came to me.
Yeah, we had a couple of statements by the gentleman from Israel who indicated that, Iran has enriched things to 90%. Well, that's a bald-faced assertion. It follows along the Israeli playbook, which, going back to 1992, Bibi, and then in 1995 in his book, said that Iran was only months or years at most away from a nuclear device. So that's untrue. The worst kept secret in the world is that Israel has more than 200 nuclear weapons. No one questions that. Then we get to why this happened. Well, let's see. National Security Advisor Tulsi Gabbard said, no, there is no enrichment at a level that could support a nuclear device. The IAEA, all right, which is on the ground there, also said the same thing. So what you have are these assertions by Israel, who's, let us say, self-interested in this. They want to drag the U.S. into a forever war on their behalf. And, and this is the thing. Then Trump goes on. He says, I don't care about, whatever anyone tells me. I'm going to go after them. So what does he do? He violates international law because there's no imminent threat. He violates domestic law because he didn't sit down with Congress and confer. He let them know after the the airplanes were already in the air. So here's a man who has shown he doesn't care about facts. He doesn't care about legality. Not what you would expect from a 42 convicted felon who's had multiple problems with the truth and also his establishment, 6 times bankrupt. It's just amazing that the American public put him in the office not once, but twice. So where are we now today? Russia and China are not anxious to run after a man who has no endgame, who appears to be headlong pursuit of a cliff. The United States cannot win a war against a country of 92 million. They couldn't put 30 to 40,000 Taliban, all right? In Afghanistan, we couldn't win there. If this goes asymmetric, we would be stuck there for years. The level of feeling within Iran is intense. They have seen leaders, friends killed. Is Iran an angel? Absolutely not. They have been involved in networks that have sponsored terrorist things. But Israel and America have now burnished Iran's image as the victim. And what you're going to see coming out of this is a pan-Islamic response. The last thing that Donald Trump wanted, or the Pentagon wanted, was to get a couple of billion people opposed to the United States. And they're doing it.
Okay.
Seriously, how dare you talk about how Iranians are feeling about these strikes? Who have you talked with on the ground? Do you have family in Iran? Do you speak Persian?
No,
are you from Iran?
Look,
do you have any...
I know you're a very obstinate fellow, but here's the fact. I do about 18 shows a week, and many of them...
Khosrow, 1 minute.
I just about the situation on the ground.
Let everybody... I know we'll disagree on things.
The fact that you have a country that is a pariah, that is instigating genocide against the Palestinians, and you dare to sit there and pretend that you have any kind of moral authority, that you want to attack me because, quote, I don't know what's going on in the ground.
So just be quiet. Shame on you.
Okay, 1 minute. Khosrow and Isfahan. Khosrow. Einar and Khosrow. Can I get Pastor in here? See, we are in a delicate situation. We agree we're in a delicate situation. We agree and disagree with a lot of things. This is a very complex situation that we are in. But when you say, how dare you, Khosrow, I would also, with respect, tell you that on the 18th of March, the US presented the annual threat assessment report. And that was from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, who said that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Khamenei is not reauthorized the program. So who is lying? Is the US intelligence community so incompetent so as to not assess a nuclear threat till the last 60 days?
Clear.
No, see, there are...
I'm not...
When you bomb a country, see, I'll tell you one. See, there is nothing called a complete right to do what you please. And that is the point of contention. When you look at it through an American lens, you'll say, we'll do what we want, we are America, we are right. But
American lens, I'm an Iranian,
You are an Iranian, but then you must know what America did in Iraq, you don't want them to do in Iran. What America did in Afghanistan, you don't want them to do it in Iran. What America did in Libya, you don't want them to do in Iran. What America is doing in Bangladesh, you don't want them to do it in Iran.
to do that in Iran. So far, the strikes that we have seen has been precision-guided, targeting the top echelons of the IRGC, the butchers of the Iranian people, and the butchers of the Middle East. How many thousands of people this regime has killed?
Okay.
How many?
Okay. Let me get in. Let me get in. Reza Khanzadeh, also on the other side, along with Pastor Mark Burns. Pastor, why would America want to change the person in charge of Iran? How is it Trump's responsibility to make Iran great again?
Well, first of all, it's the president's responsibility to protect the United States of America, the Constitution of the United States of America, and American assets around the world, domestic and foreign. I mean, it's baffling to me that we're having this conversation about Iran. Now, there's a distinct difference I want to make clear. There is the regime of Iran, whom the president already made it clear, we know exactly where Khamenei is. If we wanted to take him out, we could. We didn't. The president is not destroying the regime. He was destroying those nuclear sites, number one. Number two, let's remember this. There are millions of beautiful Iranian people who are rising up. There are hundreds of thousands of protests that are taking place just recently in February of the 46th anniversary that are rising up, that are calling for the death of the Khamenei regime. My Iranian counterpart here is speaking to that. She knows exactly what her people, because she is Iranian, she knows the culture, exactly what the real people on the ground are saying about this matter. And you got to remember, Iran, forget nuclear weapons. Iran has been the proxy of destroying American assets for years. The Houthis, the Hezbollah, what's happening, the IEDs in Iraq, all of these, Hamas is backed by and centered around Iran. Now, the fact that Russia is now meeting with Iran, China, Iran,
Russia is meeting. Tatiana,
we're ready to support Iran. The axis of evil are farming. That's why Russia is bombing.
Russia is also axis of evil.
That's why Russia.
You said Russia is axis of evil as well.
Connected. That what is happening in Ukraine is trying to happen with Russia and Ukraine.
Dr. Reza and Tatiana.
Israel. This is why President Trump says, if Khamenei, who is calling for the death of America and calling for the death of the United States of America, is getting nuclear weapons, this has always been about stopping an immediate threat of the United States of America. The president could have easily taken out Khamenei a long time ago. That wasn't his goal. But if Khamenei continues to threat, they just shut down the strait, as we just know. Now they're siding with China. They're connecting Russia. They're trying to make this into a massive regional effort. Russia's publicly come out and stated that they're ready to help Iran. These are threats to America. These are threats to Israel. These are threats to Ukraine. This is a destabilization of the Middle East, and Iran has always been at the center, or one of the major players at the center of the destabilization of the Middle East. That's why.
One minute. I'd want to bring in Dr. Reza here. But, Pastor, if I use your words on you and your logic on you and your sentences on you, I hope you don't mind, because I'm going to do that. At this point of time, using your language, I would say there are some beautiful American people who have risen up against Donald Trump. And these beautiful American people are protesting in very strong protests against Donald Trump, because the real people, according to your words, the real people of America, 1 minute, don't look, I'm just using pastors, the real people of America have spoken up. You speak about an axis of evil. Do you speak about an axis?
The real
Pastor?
people, over 80 million, voted for Donald Trump. That's not the same in Iran. We voted Donald Trump into office. Not but once, but twice.
I'm saying,
we didn't.
I'm saying,
This wasn't some
I'm saying,
dictatorship that
I'm saying to you tonight, I'm saying to you tonight, Pastor, what I'm going to say next to you is going to shock you. But last week, your leader, Donald Trump, had lunch with a man who gave the house where Osama bin Laden had sanctuary in a place called Abbottabad in Pakistan. Your leader, Donald Trump, had lunch with him, right? And he sat down with him and said, I'm honored to meet him. And the man he was meeting is the man who provided sanctuary to Osama bin Laden. I'm not going to call your president a hypocrite, but I'll also tell you that apparently he took 5 kilograms of high-quality American cheese as a gift to Kim Jong-un when he met him in Singapore. So, you see, don't talk about the axis of evil. For America, Kim Jong-un was the precipice of the axis of evil, but you met him and you spoke to him. So, you've got to let every country run itself. If they're going to run themselves to the ground, it's their business. Dr. Reza, 1 minute. Dr. Reza, 1 minute. Dr. Reza has not spoken. Dr. Reza.
Jesus says this, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. We believe that. Now, if that means...
Is the Syrian president a peacemaker? You had a $210 million bounty on his head.
Calling for the death of Americans and the death of the American president and back in Houthis, back in Hezbollah, back in IEDs in Iran and Iraq, and intentionally going after.
But tell me one thing. The biggest terrorist in the region.
And remember, the people voted Donald Trump in. It is America talking, not Donald Trump talking.
Okay.
The people of the red, the white, and blue.
Pastor, 1 minute. Pastor, I'm not an evangelical preacher. I can't compete with you. But I want to let Reza come in, not when you're in full flow. Dr. Reza Khanzadeh, may I get your response? You've been hearing this discussion so far, right? Do you think, what is Trump's endgame?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Listening to the debate so far, I've noticed that everyone makes, valid arguments, valid points. It's one of those classic debates where if you look up into the sky and it's partly sunny and partly cloudy, depending on who you ask, the answer is going to be different, but they both can be true at the same time. And one thing I think we should also keep in mind is that the debate on regime change, I think that should be rephrased to regime collapse. I think perhaps a more accurate assessment as far as the strategy when it comes to Israel and the United States, or specifically Netanyahu and Trump, is this regime to collapse. In order to do regime change, it's like you guys were talking about, it would require some military presence of a foreign entity on the ground in Iran, which I don't think any country wants to do that right now. But with the strategy that Trump has thus far when it comes to airstrikes, that could be a piece of a bigger puzzle to then see this regime start to even weaken even more than it already has, because it's no surprise to anyone, and it's no secret that this regime is at its weakest that it's ever been. And domestic uprising has been on the uprise, on the increase. So it's this balancing act where we need to see some level of external help, but not too much. Because if Israel and the United States overextends themselves in these campaigns on Iran, it could backfire to where the Iranian people don't want that help, and then will start to reposition themselves behind the regime, even though they don't like this regime. The very vast majority of the Iranian people do not support this regime. They do want either some type of regime change or some serious type of reform where this regime just does not look the way it does right now. Now this is a country of 90 million people. It's not just Persians, there's Kurds, there's Arabs, there's Turks. So it's very difficult to make, general statements when it comes to a population this large. But one thing that could be agreed upon across the vast majority of Iranians inside Iran is that they do not want this regime to be in existence in this country, controlling this country the way it currently is, right? Now, how we get about moving past that, that's the $1 trillion question, so to speak, right? I don't think it's regime change. I think it's more regime collapse. And that plays to the benefit of Netanyahu more specifically, because then Iran is no longer a threat mid to long term, as far as his strategy is concerned. Because you ask 10 different Iranians inside Iran what their view is on Iran's nuclear program, they're going to give you 10 different answers. But one consistent thread that you might find is that they all agreed that Iran should have some type of nuclear program. And for Israel, or specifically Netanyahu, if that's a non-starter, if he does not want Iran to have any kind of nuclear program, then it doesn't matter what this next regime in Iran is going to look like. I think no matter what this kind of regime is going to change into or what it might look like in the future, it doesn't matter who's in power, there's still going to be some type of push to have some type of nuclear program. But then that raises the debate of, how much access will they give to the IAEA? Will they still be a part of the, NPT? Those are conversations to have in the future. But for right now, I think the main argument to have is what kind of regime collapse strategy does Trump and Netanyahu have?
Yeah, okay. So then other countries also have a right to have a position on it, right, Dr. Reza? If somebody feels that way, then some others may feel that there is too much unilateralism in the world. So the fact that, Russia may feel differently, China may feel differently, India may feel differently. Unilateralism is bad. My concern as an Indian, for example, on this debate is that unilateralism is bad. And I think, Pastor, for all the robust arguments that you're making tonight, you have to realize that your leader is not the leader of the world, and he never will be. You've got to realize that. Trump is not the leader of the world, and he never will be. Now, we must accept that, right?
America first. That's the whole point.
No, America first, but not America who is not world first.
Absolutely right. The president is most definitely not the leader of the world. You're right. He's the president of the United States of America. And that means any threat from anywhere that is attacking or threatening to attack the citizens or American interests or our friends, we would protect it by any means necessary. And yes, we can throw that rhetoric around on Sunday. The fact is that America is less secure the president is only acting in the interest of what Donald Trump is doing and the friends of America. Do you go back to Iraq, Afghanistan? Do you ever think about all the people who died? Oh my God! You're a man of the cloth.
One minute. Adam, let him finish. Adam, let Einar finish. Let Einar finish. I'll come to you after that. Yeah, Einar, complete your point. Adam, let him complete. Yeah, thank you.
You ever think about the children in Gaza who are dying? Pastor, do you ever think about the innocents?
Think about them too.
Or is this just about America? As many dead people as necessary is okay, as long as America feels safe. There's a difference between the East and the West today. The West believes
know who I am. So if you did know who I am, you would not bring up the innocent children of Gaza. You would not bring up the innocent people of Pakistan. You clearly don't know who I am. You're just giving normal talking points. There is innocent children dying in Palestine. There is a genocide that is happening around the world. And yes, I do speak to that. I speak right is right. That's why I just got back from Ukraine. That's why I'm speaking against the evil regime of Russia, who is bombing innocent in Ukraine.
You have some sort of financial stake in this? Why are you doing this? Why are you speaking out for those who cannot speak for themselves? You speak for power, but not for the innocent. And that is questionable. So at this point, I would really hope that you would reflect and think, pray as you would, that you can see what the light is.
I'm a MAGA talking individual and not really know that I know history and facts. And I do speak to those innocent innocent Iranians. I do speak to the innocent Philistines. I do speak to those that are
Philistines.
Ukrainians.
Who are the Philistines?
Call them
Pakistan.
Philistines.
How can you call them Philistines? Who's Philistine?
The reality of it is that I constantly talk about the innocent people in these communities. So if you knew me, you would not have ever said that. But you're just giving the normal argumentative talking points that has no solutions. I got it.
Okay, Pastor, let I now respond to you. This is getting very hot. You see, self-righteousness is bad.
Let's take it down a notch. All right. The fact is, we have a situation where you cannot have one country deciding who rules in another country because there's no end. If I'm stronger than you, it's the rule of the jungle. I come in and say, well, I'm afraid, so I'm going to kill you. All right? Is that what the Bible teaches? I don't think so. I think that we have to try to get along with one another and be respectful. One man's house is supposed to be his castle. This is one of the things that in America we believe. Now, all of a sudden, you're saying that it's okay for one person to say that he wants to have regime change, that he wants to bomb people.
If Iran was not threatening the United States of America, warning the Houthis, warning Hezbollah, warning Hamas, telling them to rise up their attacks against American interests around the world. These are terrorists. If Iran wasn't doing that, we would be doing business. I was on schedule to go to Iran. My trip got canceled because they knew if I went to Iran, I would be a target of assassination or a target of being kidnapped. People like me are trying to communicate and have these open dialogues. But when you have Khamenei calling for the death of America, the assassination of President Trump, when they closed in the strait,
Pastor,
when they're asking
Pastor, listen to me. Pastor, listen. Pastor, 1 minute. Pastor, listen. Pastor, let us just calm down for a while. I'll tell you something. Now, I'll tell you something. You've got wrong information with you because there are terrorist groups in Pakistan, namely the Lashkar-e-Toiba, which is supported by Asif Munir, who had lunch with Trump, who say on a regular basis, death to America. They say we will carry out another 9/11. There is another group called the Jaish-e-Mohammed, who says death to America, who says we are the next Al-Qaeda. We're going to carry out terrorist attacks in the US. And recently a Pakistani was caught 2 weeks back for trying to carry out a terrorist attack bigger than 9/11. But Trump had lunch with Asif Munir because there is apparently a crypto deal signed between the Pakistanis and people close to Trump's office in which there's a financial involvement. So, please don't give me these ideological arguments out here because if you were sincere to it, you would not be supporting jihadi groups in Pakistan. Now, the question is only this. And I want to bring Tatiana in on this. Yes, Khosrow, you have a problem with what I said?
President, let me respond. Not only
No, Khosrow is a problem with what I said. I just said that every country should govern itself.
I have a question. What do you think of the terrorism that the Islamic Republic is propping up in Kashmir? The Quds Force is active there. It's on your border. What do you think of that?
You asking me?
Yes.
Okay, then can I answer you without getting worked up? We hammered the Pakistanis. We hit their air bases. We destroyed their military infrastructure in 4 days. They came crying to the Americans. Then we had pity on the Pakistanis and we've temporarily called it off. And we are very well capable. We are the third largest army in the world. We're a significant force, a nuclear power, and nobody messes with India. If you tried, the Narendra Modi's government is going to hammer and destroy Pakistan. But we don't need anyone's help. We don't need America. We don't need any country. We're a big country. We can, the point is, what I'm trying to tell you is this. Please understand, Trump wanted to make Canada the 51st state. Trump wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Trump says, I want to be the landlord of Greenland. Trump says, I want to take over the Panama Canal. Trump says, I want to build a resort in Gaza. And I think Trump is being disrespectful. Tomorrow, Trump will say, I want to take over Russia. He'll say anything. Not that he can ever do it, but the fact is he's showing disrespect. Don't you believe, if you say you're Iranian, don't you believe every country should have some modicum of self-respect? And even if it does, America should know how to handle big countries. Pastor, yeah, what is this? My way or the highway approach will not work.
Backed by the American people, sir.
Who?
It is the American people that's holding up Donald Trump. It's not some dictatorship of some regime change. Trump speaks for the people of the United States of America. And the reality is the president wants peace. That's why he met with Kim Jong-un. That's why he opened up Syria, who was once a terrorist. But yet President Shara gave us the intelligence to take out Soleimani. We most definitely will talk to those who may have been former enemies, but now we want to do business. It's about business.
Listen. Pastor, just relax for a minute. Pastor, just relax for a minute. Let's relax for a minute. And let me tell you the truth. You are the country that built Osama bin Laden. Your secret agency paid him. You financed him. You brought him from Saudi Arabia. You built him up. You created the Al-Qaeda. So don't complain about it. Please, we know the history of America. You know the history of America as well.
We all understand, yes, we understand that we supported the jihadis.
You supported the jihadis, then don't take such a... Then why the self-righteous outrage?
Support the Afghanistan people in the 80s.
Okay, Tatiana wants to say something to you, sir.
That's why we have...
So I'm saying that...
Okay. With Afghanistan.
Pastor,
and the
Tatiana.
that happened in Afghanistan was not President Donald Trump.
Speaking of...
Remember.
I feel very uncomfortable,
Tatiana.
Cutting into this rant of American superiority bestowed on us mere mortals. Arnab, the one that we're missing.
Yeah, go on.
The one missing is this. And at that, I'm going to repeat the thing that I told you last time. We need to understand that's not just Donald Trump. The only difference with Trump is that he actually says it very openly. Don't forget that Libya, it wasn't even a Republican president. You remember who was in power when it was Libya. It's not about Trump or any other American president. It's about America still thinking in 2025 that it is the one world power that gets to decide everything for everyone. And the pastor may not agree with me. He may say that, oh, look, it's about the threat to Americans. However, these standards that obviously apply for him, by his logic, to America, don't apply to Russia. They don't apply to India. They don't apply to China. If we're talking about a threat to Russia, we're not allowed to take any action. We're called an aggressor. And it's the same.
Precisely, and Tatiana, if I may add for just a minute, when India, in response to a terrorist attack on our soil, when we send our ballistic missiles and destroy the Pakistani air bases, then the Americans don't like it. They say, oh, the world is getting very volatile. We only hit them for 4 days. And they came crying to you. So, there are big countries in the world. There is Russia, there is China, and there is India. These are 3 big nations in the world, in Eurasia and Asia. We're watching this, but Pastor, this superiority complex must go. All countries are big civilizations. Iran is an ancient civilization. We may not agree with them.
Just like Ukraine is a sovereign nation, but yet Russia is trying to take it. Okay, so...
Yeah, but Pastor, can I tell you, who created ISIS? America. Who created ISIS? America. Who created Al-Qaeda? America. Because after Gaddafi was destroyed, who took over Libya? It was the ISIS. It was the Al-Qaeda that created their revenue footholds there. You allowed them. You created Al-Qaeda. You created ISIS. You created Taliban. Who are you lecturing, Pastor? These are truths. These are realities. When it hits you, it's gobsmack in the face. You don't like it anymore. You don't like anyone to tell you the truth, everyone else. You don't like to hear the truth. You can only laugh like that.
I'm laughing at you.
No, because I know my history 1,000 times better than you. And I'm far more vocal than you. No, I'm telling you this. You stand with me on any American platform and I'll ask you who created ISIS, who created Al-Qaeda. I'm speaking the truth. You as a pastor must say, Arnab, you tell me the truth, I'll accept it.
Telling me
You must accept the truth. The truth is the voice of God.
Let's not be.
You must accept the truth.
You can speak.
You must accept the truth. You built ISIS. You built Al Qaeda.
He's not trying to be the president of the world. He's the president of the United States of America. And if anybody threatens the United States of America, that we will use any force by any means to protect the interests of the United States of America. And if Khamenei is calling for...
Calm down. You'll burst an artery without any need.
We will do whatever it takes to support and protect the people of the United States of America. That's what the people elected Donald Trump. Even though the liberal media threw everything at him, even though they falsely accused him, even though they tried to throw him in jail, we still elected Donald Trump. So you're not speaking about Trump. You're speaking about the 80+ million citizens of the United States of America that voted for Donald Trump. It is we, the people of the United States of America. I understand you may not understand that from where you are.
You're sounding as much a supporter of Trump as Elon Musk was before he got through out.
Raise up Donald Trump in the United States of America. So if Khamenei is going to call for the death of Americans, or ask the Houthis or Hezbollah or ask for...
Yeah, you're telling me. 1 minute, sir. What you're talking about the Houthis? Do you know which country's navy? Please, sir. Do you know? 1 minute, sir. Learn to say thank you, sir. Because 1 minute. You Americans only talk. You Americans only talk. Which country's navy went and hammered the Houthis? It was the Indian Navy, sir. You said thank you to us. Because when the Americans were too scared to take on the Houthis, it was the Indian Navy Marines who went into their ships and destroyed them. Who are you talking to?
Me, his pit bull, because I'm standing up to bullies like you who bring people onto your show and start raising your voice.
It's time you met a bully like me. It's time you met a bully like me.
America,
I'm a bigger bully than you, sir.
Of the world.
I'm a bigger bully than you, sir.
He is the leader of the free world. He is the leader. Whether you like it or not, he is the leader of the free world.
Yeah, good for he's not the leader of a free world. He's the leader of America and a part of America at that. He's got 40% ratings. Don't overstate it, sir. He's your leader, not mine, and never will be. Thank God for that. Thank God. We've got a great prime minister.
So thank you very much. Because the reality of it is,
you can't face it, sir.
Donald Trump, but we are here to stay.
I am not interested in American politics, bhai.
And we'll continue to do whatever it takes to make sure that Americans and America around the world and American interests are protected. So you may not like that, but that's the reality. You can get
even Marco Rubio will be embarrassed to hear about your loyalty to Trump. Okay, I thank you very much for that.
My loyalty to God and my loyalty to the United States of America.
Why bring God into this? Why bring God into this? Why embarrass God? Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Don't bring in the God Almighty. I bring you, ladies and gentlemen, an absolute piece of American loyalty here tonight. Pastor, you've been very, very entertaining, and I thank you all for joining me on the debate and for silencing everyone else. Not silencing, not letting everyone else speak. I thank you for that, viewers. It's a moment of crisis in the world. And despite all the entertainment you may have got on that debate, the situation is very grim. We have boots on the ground. I meant reporters on the ground. We'll bring you their live reports from tomorrow. Good night and goodbye.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back with the debate.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप